Here we go. Hello, welcome. It's Discover Tai Chi for LimbPower, and we're a little bit later than we have been due to special requests to fit something in around some kind of event. I'm not sure. There might be some football going on. Who knows? But we were a little bit later today, but that doesn't matter if you're watching later. Oop, save me glasses. Right. Let's get moving and then we'll focus on our little form that we had last week with some seaweed. Okay, let's just get moving. Let's start off with two hands hold the sky. So let's just do some nice symmetrical movements. Ease ourselves into the session. Have this nice firm connection with the ground through our feet, even our prosthetic feet if we can. If you sat down, then through your seat. But we're just moving in a nice easy flow through two hands hold the sky. If you wish to have that big breath in, then you can. Or if you wish to just focus on that connection that we've been talking about, or connections, and you can have that focus as well. I'm going to do this one more time. Excellent. And we'll have a little shake and a little walk on the spot. So I'm going to keep things symmetrical. Let's do opening hearts. Just like that. Very simple, symmetrical movements. And down. Again, if it feels right for you, it could be a nice breath in. Just lends itself very nicely in that movement to a breath in and then letting the breath go on the down. But again, if you wish to just have this sense of focus on your balance perhaps, or your stability, two sides of the same coin, but slightly different things. If you have built some tension up through the day, sometimes that manifests itself in the thumbs. So if you can purposefully be aware of your thumbs and just let them be relaxed. So if you've got thumbs that are sticking out like teapot handles, as my former teacher used to say, see if you can relax them. I'm going to do one more. Some very nice relaxed thumbs. We're going to need that for when we get to our seaweedy bit. Okay, so that was opening hearts again. Nice movement, nice and symmetrical. Homage to the moon, or stork pays homage to the moon. Okay, so we're going to bring our hands up overhead. We bring the palms together and then we bring the palms down and we stick our elbows out and then relax down. Don't force the palms together if they won't go comfortably for you. But if you can get the elbows out, it's a good one for the shoulders. Again, this could be a movement where we take a big breath in, and then we can let the breath go as we bring the hands down into place, just in front of the heart. We can have a little pause and then let go. If you're up for a bit of a balance challenge or a stability challenge, we can bring our feet together as close as you dare. If you get the big toes touching, great, but only do so if you feel that you're going to be okay in that position. It's okay to have a bit of a wobble, but I don't want you to feel as though you're in deep jeopardy of falling. Here we go again. So it just challenges us to work a little bit more in that position as we lift the hands and arms and bring them back down. We're just working a little bit harder. I can feel I'm having to work a bit more in my hips and pelvis and lower back just to maintain stability in that position. Lovely. So it's just a simple closing of the base of support that we have means that we're working a bit harder. Lovely. Let's do that one more time. Good stuff. Open that stance, and all of a sudden, everything should feel a bit better. We feel a bit more stable. That tells us something, doesn't it? It tells us that our base of support can almost have an impact on our thinking. If we're at jeopardy of falling, if we're fearful of falling, for instance, when it snows and gets icy, lower limb prosthetics on ice are awful things, unless you've got grippy things on your shoes to really dig into the ice, those kind of little spikes that you can get, they make a big difference. So stability has an impact on our thought process. If we feel that we're stable physically, but also mentally, emotionally, we perform better. Whereas if we don't feel stable in those domains, maybe one or more, that has an impact, doesn't it? So we're creating a stable base for ourselves. Let's do another symmetrical movement, parting clouds. So all of these movements facilitate a stable base. And really, it's just the hands and arms that are doing the talking, which means that we can focus. There's not too much cognitive load. So that means that we can relax as we go through the movements. Means that we've got some headspace, hopefully, or it creates some headspace. If you've had a very busy day or a very long, stressful journey, perhaps, now we're just creating the headspace. Because if you're driving, you've got to manage so much, haven't you? Physically, in terms of a car, and then cognitively, in terms of everything that's happening on the road. It's a huge task. So these simpler, symmetrical movements can be a really good way of down-regulating a stressful situation. Fab. Okay, so there we go. Simple, symmetrical movements can be a really useful tool if you've had a stressful day. Avoid the more complicated stuff, and certainly avoid it if you're wanting to get a good night's sleep. I don't want you doing high impact kung fu, Kate, just before bedtime. You're going to be far too stimulated and you'll be fighting someone in your sleep. We need a nice routine to calm us down. So these are nice routines, maybe before bedtime. Okay, so let's revisit our little form. I'm going to come closer to the camera because, again, we're not going anywhere really, so we can have a bit more of the focus on our hands and feet, and it makes it very applicable for people who are sat down. So if you remember, we start off with 3 qi-shus. So again, very simple, symmetrical movement, sets the scene. And because we're doing it 3 times, it seems to really help us settle physically as well as mentally. So that's the 3rd one. Now then, if you remember, we're going to bring the hands up and we're in our position for wave hands in clouds. Ideally, because I haven't said, right hand on top. So if you need to swap, here's your chance to swap. Right hand, and we turn and do a little bit of weight shift in that direction to the right. Swap the hands, and then we do a little turn and a bit of weight shift to the left to follow the left hand. Swap those hands. Here's a turn back to the right, then to the left. And now we've got one final turn to the right. And our last turn to the left. So we're going to drop that left hand. It's going to brush a table, and then we've got this slow motion catch. There we go. Safe pair of hands. And then that ball that we've caught expands, and we get to just beyond shoulder width, and then we squeeze it back to its original size and shape. Okay, here's the seaweedy bit. I'm not sure if seaweedy is a word yet, but we'll figure that out. If you remember, we go to the right hip, so both hands drop down to that right side. We find a surface like a shelf or a worktop, and then we're going to sweep our hands, sweep that shelf or worktop clear to the left. And then this is where we want to let the fingers really kind of get very loose and relaxed, because we're going to bring them back up to the right. And then we do this little circle down and around completely. And then we're going to sweep the hands to the left. We can turn our shoulders. We can end up even looking to the left. And then we turn the hands over and the palms sweep back. But as we do so, we get another ball to catch. So just bring ourselves into that catching position. And we get our second open and close. Okay, so now it's to the left. We drop the hands down to the left hip. Sweep across our surface, a shelf or worktop to the left. And then this is where we let the hands go very loose. Just let them be very loose, and just let the wrists be lifted. The fingers will follow. And then once again, down and around. And now we're sweeping our imaginary shelf across to the right. You can look in that direction. And then we turn the hands over and we sweep them back. Good job, folks. And once again, we get another ball coming in to catch in slow motion. Let's do an open and close. And as we close, we're going to come into our dance position, but this time, left hand on top. And then we turn to the left and we're into wave hands. It's as if we're heading back the way we came. Turning to the right. Left hand on top, turn to the left. Swap hands, right hand on top, turn to the right, a bit of weight shift as well. Final turn to the left with the left hand on top with some weight shift if possible. Get the right hand on top, turn to the right for the last time. And as we drop that right hand, it's going to pick up and we're going to catch our final beach ball. We're going to let that final beach ball expand and then squeeze back. And then we're just going to place it down. And as we do so, it kind of melts away. Everything melts away. And we're done. Have a bit of a movement break because we've been in one spot for quite some time. So that can be quite difficult. So even if you're seated, so you can have a bit of a movement. So there we go. That's a nice little complete sequence of a selection of movements from Yang Tai Chi, Sun style Tai Chi with the open and close. And our seaweedy bit is from Chen style Tai Chi, that seaweedy kind of movement with that nice motility through the fingers. Should we have another go? Should we go through this? I'm going to do this seated for people who may be watching later and are watching and following along from a seated position. If you still wish to stand, that's okay. So if we're seated, we can either start with the hands on the tops of the knees or thighs, or if you've got the scope with your particular seat or chair and you can let the hands hang loosely, then do that as well. I will start from here though, on top of my knees. Okay, are we ready? Let's have a go. So 3, cheers, nice and steady. Not to be rushed, because again, we want to kind of evoke this sense of calmness and serenity and quietude, and kind of let everything settle down before we get into the more complex movement, shall we say. So this is the third one. So as we bring the hands up, they come into that position, right hand on top. Here we go, into wave hands to the right first of all. So if we're sat down, try and get some weight on that right hip and then sweep across to the left. Again, get some weight across if you can. Swap hands. Here we go to the right again. Try to have a sense of heavy elbows. That will transfer into the shoulders and keep the shoulders down. And that will help ease tension or help alleviate it building. Here we go to the left. This is the last time. So I'm dropping that left hand. Here's our slow motion catch, the very first one. Here's our ball, and we let it expand. Excellent. So here we go. Seaweed time. Right hip. Down we go. So for us who are sat down, we need to be just above the knees as we sweep the hands across to the left. Let the fingers and hands relax completely. Pick up the wrists more than anything, up to the right. And then remember, it's down, all the way around with the hands. And then sweep that shelf clear. You can look to the left as the hands go that way. Turn the hands over, the palms will face forward again, and then sweep back. But as we do so, we're catching a ball in slow motion. There it is. And then once again, we can do a nice slow open and close. Let's go to the opposite direction. Left hip across to the right hip. So maybe you begin to get an idea of the directions. Let the hands go very relaxed as we pick back up to the left shoulder. Don't forget to go down and round with the hands. That's it. Good job. And then sweep to the right. Turn the hands over, sweep back. And once again, we're going to turn this into a slow motion catch. Here we go. Open and close. As we begin to close, we're going to get the left hand on top, right hand underneath. Here we go. Bit of weight shift to the left. And we're back into wave hands. So we've got this very nice lilty feel to this little set of sequences. It's very seaweedy like all the way through. With the weight shift and the wave hands, we could really evoke a sense of being in the sea, warm and comfortable, just going with the flow. Okay, right hand on top, hopefully, as we head to the right, we're going to let that right hand drop. We're going to bring it up for our final open and close. Could be a breath in, breath out if you wish. And just let the hands settle down. and have a movement break. There's a lot of components there, even though it's a very kind of simple, symmetrical form. It's a bit like a circle, isn't it? It's a full circle. We start off from our beginning and we go through our wave hands. We do our seaweedy bits and then we come back through wave hands to where we started. So that's a nice, almost moving meditation that we could use. I think in previous sessions years ago, I've used the idea that as we start a form, it's as if we put a paintbrush on a piece of paper and we do one of those Zen circles, an Enzo as it's called, a Zen circle, and we draw this circle smoothly with our paintbrush all the way around. And an interesting little meditation that you can have is that if we start a little form, just like we've done, when we start to pick the hands up and move, that's when the paintbrush touches the paper, and then it's moving slowly but inexorably around the circle. And it's when the hands settle at the very finish that the brush is lifted back off and we've completed our circle. Shall we give that a go as an image now that I've talked about it? So I'm going to stand up again. So let's go through the form, but I'm going to describe this circle making at the same time and see if you can hold it in mind a little bit. I'll give you some waypoints as we go along. So such as when we get to the seaweedy bit, we're kind of down at the bottom of the circle around 6 o'clock, shall we say. We can use a clock face. And then we're coming back up on the other side as we go through wave hands. Shall we give it a go? So let's imagine there's a big sheet of paper in front of us. And we've got an expert calligrapher who's going to draw or paint a beautiful Zen circle or Enzo for us, but at the same time that we do our little Tai Chi form. So have that image in mind. Here we go. I'll count us in. So imagine as soon as the hands get moving, the brush touches the paper and the circle starts to be drawn. Ready, steady, off we go. So the brush hits the paper and it's moving inexorably around as we go through our little form. And again, we need to just be a little bit mindful to just keep a nice, steady, even pace and not be in a hurry to complete that circle. If anything, we want to spend some very pleasant time almost contemplating that journey. That's the third one of those. So we're going to get the right hand on top as we come into wave hands. So let's imagine we're kind of at quarter past on that circle. Here we go into wave hands. To the right, first of all, bit of weight shift. To the left. And all the while that circle is heading down and round as we go through wave hands. Here I am heading to the left for the second time. Don't worry if we're a bit out of sync, don't worry. Here's to the right for the last time. So as we begin to arrive on this left side, and we're going to get our first beach ball, we're kind of arriving almost at that half past position on the clock face. Here's our open and close. Okay. Right hip, first of all, if you remember, down we go. A sweep to the left. Hands completely limp as we lift them back up to that right shoulder side. And then we sweep the hands down and round, make a big circle, and then sweep to the left. And then sweep back, but then turn it into this slow motion catch. And that's probably exactly at 1/2 past, isn't it? As we do our next open and close. The circle is still being drawn. Down now to the left and across to the right, and the circle is beginning to pick up on the other side. Loose hands as we draw up to the left shoulder side, drop the fingers down, make our little circles, and then sweep to the right. We're kind of approaching 1/4 so to speak, as we bring the hands back, catch our ball. Here's our open and close. So left hand on top as we come into that position for wave hands. And we're beginning to climb up from kind of 1/4, heading back to the top of the circle, so to speak, as we go through wave hands. But we don't want to go too quick. We want to maintain that pace. Tracing the circle. So I'm heading to the right for the last time. So the circle is almost complete. Here we go for our final catch. So we're almost closing the circle as we do our final open and close. And as we begin to lower the hands, the brush begins to lift from the paper. And we've got our amazing completed circle. So that's I hope, an interesting image to have in mind, that there's this piece of art being created as a consequence of our moving meditation. So let me know what that was like. And that brings us spot on to 7:45. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. Let's just bring everything to a nice close. We can have a bit of a wider stance if you wish. And again, we're back to a nice symmetrical closing movement. So I'll just bring my hands to the outside, fold at the elbows, bring everything down. And just have that sense of closure. Once again, it could be a breath in and a breath out on the down. Third and final one. And if you wish, we can link thumbs, bring the hands into place on the lower abdomen. Maybe just rest our eyes. We could maybe keep our little Zen circle in mind as we just breathe in that image and then let it go. And then just maybe a few more seconds. And then we're going to let the hands go. Let the image go. And that's it. There you go, folks. So we've kind of come full circle in any case, haven't we? From start to finish. I hope that's been enjoyable. Thank you for joining me at this later time as well to accommodate some, I think there was some football on. Was there some football on? I'm not sure. We don't know the scores though, so you'll find out later, Ellie, what the scores were. I've got no idea. I don't think Kate knows even either. No idea. You're not going to get anything from us, Ellie. So thank you for joining us. Let me stop the recording. I will see you next week. It will all have to depend on whether we clash with football again and who's playing, maybe. Let's see. I'm always happy to flex.